One week when I was going back home, said I'll just stop in, drop off my resume again. So dropped my resume off, and then never heard from them. So long story short, went from unpaid intern to now part owner of the club, and really wouldn't have it any other way. They told you over and over again, you're going to get a job in sales. And I said, I am not working in sales. That's the last thing I want to do. It doesn't matter if you've been there for 25 years or if you just started yesterday. Everybody has good ideas. What do you think? What do you think? And we take all that feedback.
Welcome to the Local Legends podcast. We are here with Rob Zerjav, and we're going to learn a little bit about his up-and-coming career with the Timber Rattlers, which is a high A baseball franchise, one of the Brewers affiliates. And we're going to learn a little bit more about that, I think, as we get into it. But for those that aren't familiar with the Local Legends podcast, we feature different types of entrepreneurs or business leaders in the Oshkosh or Greater Fox cities. And today, we're really honored to have the president of the Timber Rattlers. So, Rob, thanks for jumping on today.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. It's great to be here.
Yeah. I wanted to just kind of tee this off a little bit, just for some people that might be sports novice or whatever, how baseball kind of works as far as the different types of minor league organizations, single A, high A, double A, triple A, that kind of thing. If you could just kind of give a little context, then we'll dig into your backstory. Yeah,
no, great question. And I like to use it in terms of the Packers because it feels like everybody in this area knows the Packers. So when a player gets drafted by the Packers, usually it's right out of college. They go play for the Packers immediately. Baseball is different. So baseball, a player will get drafted either out of high school or college. And instead of going and playing, we'll use the Brewers for instance, they won't go play for the Brewers right away. They start as a minor leaguer. And there's different levels at the minor leagues. There's low A, high A, double A, triple A, and then the big leagues. So when a player gets drafted, more than likely they'll start at the low A and then work their way up, hitting each system on the way to finally becoming a big leaguer. So unlike the NBA, unlike the NFL, when you get drafted, you don't go play for that team immediately. You'll start in the minor leagues, and that's where a lot of these guys come through Appleton on their way to big league careers. And we've been established for, it's over, honestly, we've had baseball in Appleton for over 100 years. So a lot of guys have come through, and a lot of familiar names.
What type of household names in baseball have come through the Timber Rattlers since you've been around?
Right before I started, Alex Rodriguez was kind of the big one. He played in Appleton, went on to have a great career in the big leagues. Again, the year before I started, David Ortiz was another one. Big Papi came to fame with the Boston Red Sox. And then since we were a Mariners affiliate for a number of years, and then have been a Brewers affiliate. This is going to be our 15th year as a Brewers affiliate.
It's been that long. Wow.
Yeah, and a lot of current Brewers have come through with us. Corbin Burns, who won the Cy Young, pitched for us. Honestly, I'd say half of the team with the Brewers right now got their start in Appleton.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about you, Rob. I know your story is a little bit unique in the fact that you kind of rose through the ranks from kind of the bottom up through the organization. I think that's a unique story in a lot of different ways. But tell me a little bit about kind of like your upbringing and then what kind of led you into the Timber Rattlers organization.
Yeah, I'm originally from Green Bay, grew up in Ashwaubenon, was always a baseball fan. I was that baseball fan in a football town, and loved baseball my entire life. If you asked anybody I went to grade school with, they say, yeah, Rob's going to be involved with baseball in some way, shape, or form, because that's all I would talk about. Graduated high school, went to college at UW Whitewater for marketing, and this is where it kind of gets interesting in my career path. Senior year, really didn't know what I was going to do. Finally went and talked to my career counselor, and there's a reason they have these people in school, and went and talked to him, and he just asked basic questions. What do you like? What are you going to school for? And I talked about sports, and I'm a baseball fan, but I mean, never going to play, and there's really not that many careers. And ironically, at that time, the Timber Rattlers were just building the stadium off of Highway 41. And he knew I was from Green Bay, and he said, well, have you ever tried applying, not with the Brewers, but isn't there a baseball stadium they're building just right off of the highway? And I said, well, there is. I never thought of even applying. I knew nothing about minor league baseball. So I randomly called them and said, hey, are you guys hiring? Can I apply for something? And they said, oh, we have no full-time jobs, but we do have an internship if you're interested in that. And I said, yep, definitely interested. So I I mailed in my resume, never heard from them. And I thought, I drive by there when I'm going home. So 1 week when I was going back home, said, I'll just stop in, drop off my resume again. So drop my resume off, and then never heard from them. So called back again and said, hey, just following up. I haven't heard anything. Have you hired these interns yet? And they said, we've never gotten your resume. I said, well, I've mailed it. I personally handed it to you. They said, well, let me check. And ironically, there was two Garys that worked in the office at the time. Very small office, but there was two Garys. There was Gary Radke, who was in charge of marketing, Gary Mays, who was in charge of the internships. Because my background was in marketing, they gave Gary Radke my resume, and he's like, oh yeah, I've got it right here. So I think they felt guilty that they misplaced my resume. They finally brought me in for an interview. I interviewed during a game, and I didn't know, again, I'm still in school, going for an unpaid internship. They said, just come in for the game. The game will start. We'll eventually track you down. And you don't know what to wear. You're going to a baseball game, but I'm doing an interview. And so I'm kind of dressed up.
Did you bring a glove?
I feel awkward. No, I'm sitting behind home plate. And finally, about the fourth inning, they come and track me down. I go and sit down for an interview. And again, this is where I'll do a lot of discussions with college. I'll go and speak at college campuses and speak to high schools. And what's funny is my resume, I changed it up just a little bit for this job. Over the summer, I had worked at the village of Ashwaubenon. I was lining baseball fields, dragging baseball fields, really nothing to do with working in I'll call a real job. And I thought, well, this is kind of baseball-ish. I'll put it on my resume. Ironically, Gary Mays, who I was interviewing with, has a background as a groundskeeper. That's all we talked about the entire interview. And the fact that I cut grass and I lined baseball fields, didn't care.
Been in the baseball industry for 4 years.
Yeah. And so it's just funny what the person that's interviewing you will pick up on. And I, to this day, I say I owe my career to the fact that I cut grass when I was in college. So got the internship with the team. It was an unpaid internship. I still love to thank my parents for letting me take an unpaid job after college. And again, all my friends thought it was just absolutely crazy. You go to college to get a paid job, and here I am. I go to college for 4 years, and my first job is paid $0. But I was looking at it from a big picture standpoint. This is what I want to do. I'm young. How do you get your foot in the door? This is my way. Eventually, I'd love to work for the Brewers. And after 2 weeks, I just fell in love with minor league baseball. I said, this is what I want to do for a career. At the time, the GM of the team, he was only 23 years old, so a year or two older than I was. And I thought, hey, this could happen for me much sooner. I don't have to wait till I'm 40, 45, 50 years old to be running a team. I could be doing it, in a couple of years. So after my internship, got hired by the Timber Rattlers in ticket sales. So I was in ticket sales for a couple of years. Figured, okay, it's time for me to move on, kind of move up the ladder. Ironically, Gary Mays, who had hired me, had moved on to another team in our league. So his position opened up in baseball and stadium operations, which is what I really wanted to get into. So I was offered that position. Was in baseball and stadium operations for 2.5 years. My boss at the time, the GM who was there when he was 23, had moved on as well. Mike Burling is now he works for the Durham Bulls. He's the GM of the Durham Bulls, and got that job at 24, 25. So my new boss was actually let go in I think I was around 26 years old, and I was put in charge on an interim basis as president and GM of the club. Was hired officially that fall at 27, and one of the youngest presidents and GMs in the entire country in minor league baseball. And thought you always think you're ready for something, but looking back now, boy, I had a lot to learn. And I've been doing that ever since. And then COVID hit. A lot of changes that happened at Major League Baseball. We've always been a community-owned team, and because of COVID, we ended up looking to sell the club to keep the team here, and I ended up becoming part of the ownership group as well. So long story short, went from unpaid intern to now part owner of the club, and really wouldn't have it any other way.
Unpaid intern to part owner of the club. I mean, talk about a full character arc right there in the story. I want to hear a little bit about your business background, because I think when people that are familiar with the Timber Rattlers organization, I think what was it, 2019, it was Best Small Business of Fox Cities, and it's got a long history of mastering sales and marketing specifically. I want to talk to you first about how you approach sales, and we can get into even how you individually would approach sales if you were a sales professional or an entrepreneur. And then I want to talk about how you brought that into the marketing component of the organization itself.
Yeah. Again, when I went to school, I went for marketing, and they told you over and over again, you're going to get a job in sales. And I said, I am not working in sales. That's the last thing I want to do. And of course, my first job is in sales. Because again, when you're younger, you think selling is all about used car salesmen and tricking people into buying your product. And what I learned with the Timber Rattlers is, nope, we have a product. We think it works really well for companies. I was selling group tickets, picnics. If it works for you, great. If it doesn't, we get it. And it's just our job to present you that information and find out what you're looking for and try to fit our product into what you need. So I actually ended up really enjoying the sales end of it, because really it's just sort of problem solving, and it's having a product that you believe in. And if you believe in your product, it becomes pretty easy to sell to folks. And that's really just what we preach now. And we tell all of our sales folks, it's really more about the effort. It's not necessarily, there's a saying on one of our walls, you can't guarantee the result, but you can guarantee effort. Mm-hmm. So to us, it's about getting that information in front of people, letting them understand what we do. And then if they see a value in it, they're going to buy that product. And really, when it comes to the marketing end of it, and really for us, it's customer service, making sure they have a great time when they come out to the ballpark. And the product we're providing is just fantastic. And that's really when I first started running the organization. Let's get our product as good as possible. I like to say perfect. Nothing's perfect. I'm a perfectionist, so I'll push us always towards that, but we can always get better. And how do we have a great product that whenever somebody comes, which is really our mission statement, it's basically we want to make sure people come out to the ballpark, have a great time, and always leave with a smile on their face. And if we can do that, they're going to come back. And if we have a great product, they're going to buy it and they're going to want to come back. And that repeat business is really important for us. And so that's from, I guess, in a nutshell, from a sales standpoint, we're really big on, and I'll just give cliches here, but under promising, over delivering. Yeah. And I think that's why we've been as successful as we have, and really have grown. And from the standpoint of a organization in minor league baseball on a national scale, where there's now 120 minor league teams, I'd put us up against anybody and in what we do from a product standpoint, sales standpoint, marketing standpoint.
Yeah, you said something I think really interesting is about how sales is more of a problem-solving process, where you're looking at what their individual need happens to be and trying to figure out this solution that you have, this product that you're selling, how that can actually fit into the need. And it's about listening and understanding that. How do you approach that practically? Like, if you're in a conversation with someone that might be a prospect, how do you start to have that conversation to figure out what their problem is?
I think it's asking questions. It's pretty basic. And again, I will say right off the bat, I am not a great salesperson, and I don't have all the answers, and it's really just understanding that person. I think it's relationships is the start, but how you develop those relationships is by asking questions, getting to know that person and taking a genuine interest, and not just listening for the keyword you're trying to get so then you can fit your product in there. But, there's times when people say, hey, this is what we do, or this is what we're looking for, and we don't offer that. And we'll just be honest and say, well, it's probably not going to work. I think we've done a pretty good job of finding different ways to have a lot of different products. For us, sometimes we'll run into companies that don't have summer picnics. Well, that was always our bread and butter. Well, now we have a year-round banquet facility. So we have Christmas parties, and we have all these other opportunities in a much smaller scale area. And if they're not doing a summer picnic, hey, well, we do have this other solution. So again, to me, it's really just about getting to know that prospective client, asking them questions, and really just learning about them and what are their problems and how can we hopefully try to solve them.
What do you think contributed to a lot of the growth that we've seen in the organization over the years? I mean, just in my lifetime observing it, it seems like the Timber Rattlers just went from, I mean, you see stadium expansion happening right now. You see a lot of different attendance numbers seem to be always much higher than they used to be when I was a little kid. What do you kind of attribute that success to?
It would be our people. We have great people. We've grown. When I first started, we had 12 full-time staff members. We're up to 30 staff members now. We have a second team in the Northwoods League in Fond du Lac, so they have 3 full-time staff members down there as well. But we just have great people, and we've done a really good job of letting people grow in our organization. And the one thing that'll be different about us compared to other minor league teams, most minor league teams, you'll see a lot of folks that are transient. They'll come in for 2 years, 4 years, and they move on. Their staffs are always kind of churning people over. And we always hear it from other teams. They're like, how do you do this? But when you look at our website and you look at the number of people, or our staff, and how long they've been with us, for me, it's been, I think I'm going on 26, 27 years. A lot of other people on staff, it's 10, 15, 20. And to me, that really helps develop the culture. You're not always reteaching folks. And I think really that's what's kind of been our success, is having people on board, knowing what we're doing. Everybody's going towards the same goal. And we just have been very fortunate with great people on our full-time staff, but then great people on our game day staff as well. And people that are just so passionate about baseball, the Timber Rattlers, the Brewers, and just really bought into our customer service mentality. And I'll say I'll put us up against anybody. I really am proud of what we do and what our folks do.
Well, when I ask that question to other guests on this show, it seems to be that's a common theme that we hear a lot, is that culture seems to drive a lot of the success. Do you think, tell me about how you go about building a great culture. Is it the hiring process? Is it grooming them once they're in? Is it training? Is it like what are the aspects that you've found to be successful in maintaining and keeping that culture?
Yeah, I think it's all the things that you mentioned. For us, to me, it starts, my dad preached this, I preach it to my kids to this day, is treat people how you want to be treated. The golden rule, pretty basic. Again, I'll be very simplistic in all of my answers, but it's really seemed to work for us. So to me, I'll treat everybody on staff like I want to be treated. I won't ask anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do. And that's kind of the basis of just my general philosophy. But then it's hiring the right people, going through the process, bringing on, to me, it's good people. It's not necessarily they have all this experience. Sometimes we find the best group of people are young, hungry, maybe inexperienced, that we can kind of groom and kind of lead in the way we want them to be. And we see that with game day staff. We'll bring in 15, 16-year-olds to work, and we'll get a lot of questions. Oh, they're so young, and how do they know what they're doing? And I said, honestly, I like when they're that young, because this is their first job. Usually mom and dad's telling them, you have to do a good job, make sure you pay attention. And they haven't developed all these bad habits from working somewhere else. And so it's finding the good people. And then to me, it's being fair. When I first started with the Timber Rattlers, you worked every single game. And that, I still remember my intern year. It was June. We played every weekend that June. And then when the team was gone, if it was during the week, you'd still work. So I worked literally every day of June. And I had some friends say, hey, we want to go on a camping trip. We know your schedule's busy. Let's just pick some time in June that works for you. I said, I work every single day. And they said, well, what about the weekends? I said, I work every weekend. I work every day. And that was crazy. And I remember the guys that were there saying, well, if you get married, it's pretty tough to work in baseball. Once you have any kids, then it's almost impossible. And we were very male dominant from a staff standpoint. And, I've looked at that as it just doesn't make sense. And it's, so we flipped that and we have a very good balance from a male-female standpoint. I think that's great because everybody will think, oh, sports, it's guys, and baseball, oh, it's guys. But to me, it's no, we're selling family entertainment, mom's making the decisions. So the fact that we have this great balance, on our staff, I think really helps. But we also then changed, we don't want you missing weddings. We don't want you missing funerals. We don't want you missing your kids' baseball games. So that's another thing that from a cultural standpoint, we've really changed. And it's really about, and that's how I think we've kept a lot of people on staff, is we're very flexible with everybody's time. And to me, it's about getting your job done. It's not about punching the clock. It's not about who can be here the longest, because we put in long days. I mean, it's 9 a.m. until 11 o'clock at night, and you do it 6 days in a row or 12 days in a row, and it's weekends. And our staff, we put in a lot of time. So I want them to take that time off, but not miss all of the events that when I first started, that was just commonplace. And I think that's helped develop the culture we have that, hey, again, you work hard, you play hard, and everybody knows when they're at work, they're going to do a great job. But it's, the job isn't everything, and we want you to have a life too. Yeah.
You mentioned 2 parts, I think, and I don't know if you noticed this, but it sounds like the way you approach culture is you really take notice into the strengths of the different people that you're working with. You mentioned the 15, 16-year-olds that are young and hungry, but might just need to be channeled in a certain direction versus people that might have other talents. I think that's something that you probably do really intuitively as you just look across, but just kind of looking from the outside in. It seems like that's something that you're doing as you're building a culture, is you're trying to shape people based on their talents and skills. You're trying to bring things like a work-life balance and what's important to them and their families. The second thing I thought that was really interesting that you mentioned was the idea of balancing out your male versus female staff members, and how you understood from a purchasing standpoint that mothers tended to be planning a lot of these different family events. So having females on your staff allowed that opportunity, allowed a marketing angle at that. I thought that requires a lot of awareness, I think, into the market. That's really interesting. How did you kind of come up with those insights or figure that out over the years? Well, I'm big on different perspectives, and everybody will come with different ideas, and we're really big on brainstorming, and I like to get a bunch of feedback before we make a decision. And then there's times when you just have to make a decision, but there's other times when you can say, okay, what do you think? And we really encourage everybody on staff. It doesn't matter if you've been there for 25 years or if you just started yesterday. Everybody has good ideas. What do you think? And we take all of that feedback. And, we'll still get some folks that'll say, hey, how about this idea? And we say, oh, I hate when we say we've tried that and it didn't work. But then there's sometimes when it's really the case where we tried it, great thought, but it just isn't going to work for what we're trying to do. And it's really just encouraging everybody to participate. And again, to me, it's not rocket science. It's, okay, let's just come up with the best way we can possibly do something, and just keep working at it and tweaking it year after year after year. Just keep stacking the successes on top of the successes. And how do we keep making everything better? And again, with staff being there for so many years, they've seen this. And how do we grow this? And how do we grow that? And again, I think that's why we've grown to do what we've done. I want to ask a little leadership follow-up to that idea, because I've seen this happen with me, and I've seen this happen with other entrepreneurs, that you hear things like, you want to surround yourself with great people, you want to take into account a lot of different advice, but at some point, how do you know if the advice you're getting is a good idea? How do you vet that idea, and how do you make the decision? How do you approach that problem? I guess some of it is just who you are too. And you get to a position, there's a reason that you've gotten to the position you are. Right. And, again, I've had a lot of people help me, but I think, there's some things that I've been really good at. So I think it is kind of one of those things I'm good at, is seeing, okay, what are the good ideas? What are the bad ideas? My wife actually can't stand it about me, because I can always kind of anticipate potentially what the result's going to be. And it drives her crazy, because I'll say, well, that's just not going to work. And then she wants to know why. And then it's a big discussion, but I guess that's one of the traits that I have, is I'm pretty good at seeing, okay, if we do this, what are the next steps down the road and what could happen? So I think that in my position, I think that helps me out when everybody has all these good ideas. And again, we talk about sales, and I'm not great at sales. We have just fantastic salespeople, and I try not to stand in their way or get in their way, because they're much better at it than I am. So I think it's realizing what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, and then, surrounding yourself with just great people. And that's what, honestly, I've tried to do. And
and sometimes you'll bring good people on, but as I say, they'll be on the wrong seat on the bus. So it's trying to, they're great. How do we find them, put them in the right seat to be successful with us? So we've had some of those people on staff too, where the first job they had with us, it wasn't a great fit, but then we moved them into something else, and they've just become a rock star. Basically what you mentioned, I think it's really big to bring on people that are smarter than you, let them do their thing, and then just help kind of guide the whole organization.
So I've got an idea for you, Rob. Yeah. How about this? So we take the Brodie and we bring it to our chamber functions and we can advertise, the Timber Rattlers. Like, tell me about the Brodie. Did that predate you?
No.
First of all, explain the Brodie and for those listeners that aren't from the area.
So we're with the world famous Brodie. We saw this in Lansing, Michigan. They hosted the All-Star game. I believe it was 1998, and they came out in between innings, and that's one of the things that we do. We'll do promotions every inning, so it's entertainment. But Lansing, they came out with this giant, it's this oversized hot dog launcher, and we're shooting hot dogs into the stands. We said, this is just crazy. We have to have that. And got back, we said, okay, where did you guys get this from? They gave us the vendor, and it's a fairly expensive piece of equipment. And what's really funny is we've had the same one now for almost 25 years. So we've gotten our money's worth. But so we got this hot dog launcher. I want to say probably 1999 was the first year we did it, and we wanted to put a Wisconsin spin on it. So obviously, Brats, what's a good name? Brodie. Somebody said Brodie, and we're like, well, that's perfect. And the Brodie was born, and every game now we'll shoot 12 to 15 brats into the stands, fully cooked. And we've done it now for 20, just the number of brats we've shot into the stands. And I'll still to this day stop when I hear, we play the same music, we play Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. Every time the Brodie goes around, I'll hear the music, I'll stop because it just still puts a smile on my face. And shooting brats into the stands, and to me, it still just never gets old.
Oh yeah, I seriously think there's a business opportunity here, Rob, where we can use the Brodie to launch things around Oshkosh. Maybe the parade. I don't know. We've got we got ideas. We got things moving. Well, I think obviously that's a staple. I think that was really unique to the community in the area, and obviously it's held some childhood memories with me to this day. So it's clearly working as a marketing tool. Is that how you approach a lot of different marketing ideas? Is just kind of like, do you travel and kind of look at other places or other opportunities, or where does the creativity meet in your line of work? Yeah,
and that's what's really, really neat about minor league baseball, but just sports in general, is for the most part, we're all not competing against each other. So there's only two minor league teams in Wisconsin. There's 12 in our league, but they're spread out all over the Midwest. So we're really not competing against the Dayton Dragons for fans. We're not competing against the West Michigan Whitecaps for fans. So we share ideas. Hey, did this work for you? Does this work for you? And it's very open communication. It's a lot of sharing, and. We saw a couple of years ago a lot of teams doing these kind of wacky promotions, and we said, we're from a creative standpoint, I'll put us up against anybody. And I said, let's come up with something, and that's when the Wisconsin Undertuggers were born. We said, okay, what can we do? What can be kind of exciting, different, a little risque? And we rebranded ourselves as the Undertuggers for one game. Came up with this just fantastic logo. And again, a little worried, how is this going to play out? Is it, a very conservative area? What are people going to say? Is it going to be offensive? And, you can look at it from a lot of different angles. And I'll still remember the day we put Undertugger merchandise on sale. We blew through it all in 2 hours. Social media just exploded, and we were just the talk of all of minor league baseball, talk of sports media. And really didn't have any negative pushback, which I still am shocked by. And Undertuggers just exploded. And that was us saying, hey, other teams are doing these kind of creative one-offs. How can we do it better than them? And Undertuggers came to be, and now we've spun off a lot of other one-off brands. We've been very successful with those, but that was kind of the granddaddy of them all. And still, we've won national awards on the Undertuggers, minor league awards. And Yeah, and that just comes from us seeing what other teams are doing and how can we do it maybe just a little bit better.
What kind of different types of like personal success tips do you kind of believe in? Are you someone that believes in exercising, waking up early, taking cold showers, whatever it is? Like what kind of like habits and routines do you tend to gravitate towards?
Yeah, it's changed a lot. As you get older, then you start to try to listen to folks a little bit more. So yeah, I do. From an exercise standpoint, I'm up early, exercise every morning. And I really feel that gets me going. I know when I don't, I feel it. And it's still, I don't look forward to it and I had to find a way. So to me, I'll find a program on Netflix or whatever it might be. And I'll force myself, I can only watch it when I'm on the treadmill. So that's my way to inspire myself. And I'll get into a program and I said, well, now I got to exercise. So then it became, before work, after work. And then again, my wife's thinking I'm crazy and hey, you got to stop doing this. And I'm like, well, I want to finish my program. She's like, you can watch it on television. You don't have to just watch it when you're on the treadmill. So yeah, I'm an exercise guy. Otherwise habit wise, a lot of stuff with family. I've got 2 boys. One right now, he's in travel baseball. He's in basketball currently, but then there's a lot of baseball. So I'm very involved with that. And I really enjoy teaching baseball. So I'm going to help coach his travel ball team this summer and just really excited. And I just really enjoy teaching the game, seeing younger kids. It clicked with them. And I still remember when I was playing baseball, the one coach that really got me to connect and watch the ball hit the bat, and all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, now I'm actually doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I love seeing that click in younger kids. And so I really enjoy that. And I see myself trying to continue to do that for quite some time.
As a coach, couple questions. Like when you're looking at someone who's either a minor league player or a kid, are there certain characteristics you see with them that can be predictors of success? And what are those things?
Yeah, it's interesting. And again, in minor league baseball, we have 25 guys on the team that all of them were the best kid in grade school, the best kid in high school, the best kid in college. They come to us and they're just one of 25 of all of the best. So they're, high chance they're not the best on our team. So I think for some of them that's difficult. But yeah, you can sometimes just see it. You can see it, and it's this it factor. I remember seeing it with Mitch Haniger, who went on to star with the Seattle Mariners. He's with the San Francisco Giants now. You could just see it in him when he was on the field. You'd be like, he just has something. And
is it like a confidence or something, or what do you?
Yeah, I think it may. Yeah, an air of confidence where he just walks and you're like, oh, it was just different. So I think that could be what it is just this confidence. And baseball is a little bit different. I think you're sometimes born with talent. Maybe that's everything. You're born with talent when it comes to sports, and some people can work really hard at it and get better at it. But there's a story that Matt Erickson, our former manager, likes to tell. Great. He was a 3-sport athlete in high school. Went on to play professional baseball. Got a cup of coffee with the Brewers. Very hard worker. He tells a story about Gary Sheffield, who he remembers in Marlins camp his first year going, and was at the field for the game. Gary Sheffield shows up extremely late. I'll abbreviate the story. Shows up extremely late. He's the third guy to bat. Comes up to bat, hasn't warmed up, hasn't loosened up, kind of looks hungover. First pitch, 450-foot home run to center field. He's like, no, see, that's just, some guys are just born with it. And he's like, I couldn't do that if I trained for the next 3 years. And so, that's where I think sometimes it's, you're given these gifts. Again, and I'm on a podcast now, I feel bad. I'll tell my oldest son, God bless him, great kid, super smart, athletically tries really hard, but it just doesn't always click for him. Our youngest son, it feels like he's been swinging a bat since he was 1 year old, and anything he touches, any ball he touches, he's just good at it. And then you foster that, and he really enjoys sports, and he continues to get better, and he works at it. But sometimes, again, I think there's people that mean well, and I'll say myself, I love baseball, but I know I just wasn't given those gifts to play. I played in high school, but then never is going to happen in college, and it's just, I guess, sometimes how it is.
I think it's actually a really important message, because we see this all the time in our business with entrepreneurs. Is there's a base level of talent or aptitude that's often required to be successful in the business world or in what they're working on. And then there's this like hustle culture of like, just, as long as you keep grinding, like it'll happen. And it requires a baseline level of talent before you can completely hustle.
Very true.
And then the opposite's true, where like, kind of the talent, what's the quote? I'm going to butcher it, but it's like, like talent doesn't work when talent doesn't work hard, or something like that. And that's true as well, as if you have someone that's lazy that doesn't work hard, talent means nothing. But I think what I'm hearing from you, and I think I agree, is that there's still a base level of gift or skill or talent that you might have that's still required. And it's about finding that and matching that up with kind of the path or the career you're looking at.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. I think that's a great point. As much as I'd love to play in the NBA,
Yeah.
if you're not 6'6", you're not 7 feet tall. I mean, it's not that easy, and there has to be that baseline. And same, yeah, you're exactly right when it comes to entrepreneurship. If you might have a passion for something, but if it's not directed in the right way, or it just might not be what that career path is for you. And I think you're exactly right with the aptitude. At least you have to have that baseline.
So when you're like back to kind of when you're coaching with your kids, or when you're looking at kind of the next coming generation, what would be your advice to them, from whether it's in sports or just being a person? What are some of those things that you say, this is how you ought to behave and live?
Yeah, we're big believers again, and I am with, work hard. Whatever you're doing, work hard, give it your all. Again, I'm a big believer in treat people how you want to be treated. Just be kind to people, and you'll hear now. And again, it's funny now that I've been with a team for so many years. I'd always hear, well, this generation doesn't work hard, or this generation doesn't work hard. It feels like every generation doesn't work hard. I still feel we get kids that are 15, 16, and they're super hard workers. So I think sometimes every generation gets sold just a little bit short. But yeah, just it's some of those basics. It's work hard, pay attention, treat people the right way, and I think you're going to be successful.
Yeah. We do have a couple folks in the audience. I know we've got a little bit of time here to ask some questions if people wanted to kind of get a chance to pick your brain on certain business perspectives. Do we have any thoughts or questions off the bat?
Not a business question per se, but I'm wondering how much as an owner, GM, league or club official, how much influence do you have on the players you get? Are they just, you get what you get and you deal with it, or do you get the draft, or how do you get players?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because as much as I want us to have a new shortstop, or, we need a relief pitcher, or we need a new closer, I have zero say in any of that. Basically, the Brewers, it is about development, and it's about getting these guys better. So sometimes they'll put a player in a position to fail, because they want them to realize what it's like to fail, to get those reps at this level before he becomes a big leaguer, and they don't want to make those errors when he becomes a major leaguer. So yeah, the Brewers, they assign all of our coaches, they assign all of our players. They decide when a player's been done a good enough job to be moved up to the next level. So yeah, I'll give my input, and they'll smile and they'll say thanks, and that's about as far as it goes.
Thanks, Rob. It's been really interesting. Can you tell us, who maybe are your top 2 or 3 players that I don't mean from a talent perspective, but maybe your favorite players that have come through? Maybe it's because of talent, maybe it's because of their leadership ability. It's just been great guys to be around. Has really kind of made a difference with the Timber Rattlers and yourself. And then also, if you could just explain, there's a lot of great things going on at your great facility this winter in construction. If you can just give us a quick update on what we're going to see this summer there too.
Yeah, player-wise, it's funny because the older I get, the further away I sort of get from, again, well, obviously from the player's age. When I first started, you get to know these guys on a real personal basis, because you're seeing them after games at the bars and hanging out. There's a player from Australia, Dan Floyd. We're still Facebook friends, and that was from 1997. I think he was with us in 97, 98. So that goes a long way. So there's still kind of that relationship there. But otherwise, it's really neat to see. I like to talk Bryce Terang, who's kind of on the cusp of becoming a Milwaukee Brewer right now. I was amazed by his leadership ability when he was with us. He was with us maybe 4 years ago, drafted out of high school. He was 19 years old with us. One of the youngest guys on the team. Was a first-round pick, obviously a lot of talent, played shortstop. But just the way the guys would respond to him, and it was more of a silent leadership, but they really rallied around him. And when you see Bryce, he's not the biggest guy in the world. I wouldn't say, he screams leader, but when he's on the field, players just follow him. And I was just always really impressed with that. And then another player that people might be familiar with, Garrett Mitchell, who's currently playing center field for the Brewers, was with us just a couple of years ago. And just a great guy, great person, really genuine. So, some of these guys, it's just kind of neat to meet them, get to know them a little bit, follow them through their careers, whether they make it to the big leagues or not. And again, we'll cycle through 50-some players every year. And now the fact that I've been there for 25 years, there's been a lot. And but yeah, it's really neat to see them succeed both on and off the field. Regarding our stadium, we're currently in the midst of finalizing up some renovation. Major League Baseball had basically 3 years ago taken over minor league baseball, and they eliminated 40 teams from minor league baseball. And with that said, you need to improve the player amenities. Every club has to improve the player amenities. So bigger clubhouses, place to eat, all the way down to cleanliness, some of the things we obviously were doing. But then things that you never thought about when the stadium was built in 1995, we have to have facilities for women. There's now female trainers, there's female coaches. Where are they going to change? Where are they going to be? And it's just uncomfortable. And the way the clubhouses were designed, you basically walk in the door and you're right in the locker room. And then there's just, it's just not very comfortable all the time for honestly anybody, but then for women specifically. And so we're in the midst of renovating we built an entire new home clubhouse. To me, it's going to be probably the nicest clubhouse in all of minor league baseball. But women's facilities, everything we did bigger than Major League Baseball wanted us to. The Brewers are really excited about this, so we're really excited for the players to come and see that in a couple of weeks. But then we wanted to do some fan amenity work with that as well. So Major League Baseball dictated we have to have this done, starting with some of it in 2023. So that's why we are basically completing all of this now. But we wanted to do some things for the fans. So we've expanded our concourses to make them a little bit wider and more comfortable to walk around. We'll have a 360-degree wraparound concourse, so you'll be able to walk around the entire stadium. We've added outdoor left field suites, so just kind of a new perspective, sort of a mini green monster, pretty high perspective, but we think fans are really going to enjoy that space. And then the one that's just getting a lot of traction, we're putting in a 30-foot, 3-story slide in the left field corner, and sort of in homage to obviously American Family Field, and the Brewers have Bernie's slide. The difference with us, we'll let fans actually use our slide, and anybody that comes out, they can come down and use the slide at the ballpark. And something for the players, something for the fans, and really excited to show it off, hopefully in about a month.
Is there any advice that you would probably give yourself looking back on your career that you would say, I wish I would have looked at this differently, or something I would have done different, or something I would have kept doing the same?
Definitely, you don't know it. You don't know it all. Looking back, one of the things I thought that I was proud of myself at that time. I was never a big reader, but I forced myself to dive into books on selling, on business, on selling, specifically baseball, selling tickets. And I think that really helped me be ready for a position at that time. I would tell myself now I should probably read a little bit more. I'll find myself reading more articles, and social media is so easy to just find and go down a rabbit hole and get some good tips that way. But I don't do as much reading as I used to, and I attribute that to being ready and some of the success that I had at an early age.
Do you have any favorite books that you would recommend, or anything any business books that you think would be helpful for people?
One that was given to me, Good to Great and Built to Last, I think are just fantastic. I think those are some of the common...
Jim Collins, yeah.
Yeah, just fantastic. And you still read them now, and it's so poignant and just, it really fits. But then in the sports industry, John Spoelstra is kind of the godfather when it comes to selling tickets. He has a handful of books, and I would highly recommend if you're in sports and you want to sell. And honestly, it can be for just marketing or selling anything. He's just had a great career, more specifically in the NBA, but just how to sell tickets. And I think that's really a basis for how we've done it, how a lot of sports teams are doing it, and it all comes from John Spoelstra and his thoughts on selling.
Yeah. Did we have any other questions from folks in the audience? Yeah, we got a couple here.
So I know that you guys recently went from a low A to a high A. And with all these expansions, it's super exciting. So is there the potential to go to AA or Triple-A? And I don't know if you can answer that, but I guess what are the specifications to move up in the ranking? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, no, a good question, because we did. We went from low A to high A, and that was Major League Baseball trying to geographically realign all of minor league baseball to make a little bit more sense. So we went, and the difference in talent hasn't been that great, but I've been surprised by the talent from the low A to the high A level, because low A will be younger players and high A will be obviously a little bit older. And the one thing, again, with these renovations that we're doing, Major League Baseball has dictated that every stadium be compliant across the board. So there's certain criteria you have to meet. In the past, single A was held to a certain level, double A was you'd step up. For example, lighting. Your lighting had to be to this level at single A, but then it had to be better at double A and then even better at triple A. But now everything has to be the exact same. So our stadium come April 1st of 2023 will be triple A ready. So it does open up that opportunity where in the past that could never happen because we're playing in a single A park. Our facility just doesn't meet triple A standards. And it'll be interesting to see. I think from a Major League Baseball standpoint, they're going to look to expand. Right now, the Brewers, they're Triple-A's in Nashville. I'm assuming Nashville is going to be a Major League Baseball market. When that happens, I'm guessing the Brewers will be looking for a new Triple-A team. And if that presents itself, I know we'll definitely have that discussion and see if that's a possibility. So it's funny to see how all the dominoes kind of fell in the way to potentially lead to something like that. And we'll see where it goes over the next handful of years.
So the criteria mostly is more of the attendance and the possibility of attracting that market, and then where the existing locations are and how that all kind of intersects?
Well, to move, in the past, it used to be AA stadiums had to seat 10,000, and then AAA had to seat, it was 12 or 13, and we only seat 6, so that wouldn't work. And then, again, your lighting or your clubhouse had to be this big, and so now everybody's standards are the same. And honestly, Major League Baseball doesn't necessarily care how big your community is, how big your city is.
Okay.
If your Major League team wants to be there, they're going to work with them. But yeah, in the past, it used to be your market size. Again, it was dictated because they were looking at size of stadium. So obviously, the bigger the city, the bigger stadium they usually have because they can draw more people. And it'd be almost impossible for us to draw 12, 13,000 a night in Appleton. We just don't have a big enough population to support something like that. But now you're seeing, and especially geographically, you've got the Twins have a team, a AAA team in St. Paul, and there's a AAA team in Des Moines and in Indianapolis. So there geographically, there is a possibility for us from a AAA standpoint. I think AA would be sort of difficult because, again, they travel by bus at the AA level, and there's no other AA teams around here for us to get to. But so yeah, really, it's just a matter of if your Major League team sees that fit. And yeah, our stadium will meet all the criteria.
Great question, McKenna. Yeah.
So you talked a lot about culture before, obviously from the business standpoint as well as, kind of a player standpoint. And, as you said, obviously these kids are the best of their high school team, best of their college team, and then obviously they're coming into a bigger group where they may not be the best. Do you kind of leave it up to the coaching staff and some other personnel when it comes to somebody who may not be the best fit for your culture in regards to the players, or do you have kind of input on that on, if there's a situation or there's somebody that's not fitting your team motto or atmosphere, Is there any input that you kind of can go forward that way?
From the player standpoint?
Yes, from the player standpoint.
Not so much directly. Again, we'll leave that for the most part up to the coaching staff. And the Brewers will bring in roving instructors. They go to all the different minor leagues, and they have a psychologist at role. They've got a nutritionist. So they've got a lot of different folks that they can talk to about any issues that they're having. But again, I'll do my best kind of with anybody. It doesn't matter if they're a player, if they're working on our game day staff, if they're on our full-time staff. If I see something that I can try to help with or give them some advice, I'll still never forget Caleb Thielbar was a pitcher for us, lefty, good ball player. For whatever reason, the Brewers farm director, I don't think really liked him. We had a kids camp, and the players all get paid $25-$50 to do the kids camp. And we did the kids camp. Then we had a game. After the game, he was released. So he came up to me, and this is like 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, what's a player still doing here? And he came into our office, which they usually don't come into our office. And he's like, hey, I'm sorry to do this. I just got released. Is there any, and again, they don't get paid a whole lot of money. He's like, is there any way I can get the money from the kids camp today? I'm like, oh God, yeah, no problem. Got him his money. And I said, hey, Caleb, it's up to you. If you think you're a ball player, if you think you're a good enough ball player, don't let this discourage you. And again, he was in a different frame of mind. Again, a million things racing through his head. Just got released, has to figure out what's his next step, what's he going to do. So I highly doubt he listened to anything I had to say. But he went on, and he's still pitching. He's with the Minnesota Twins. He's had a really good big league career. And I'm glad he didn't give up, because he was a good ball player. And just because somebody doesn't think you're doing a good enough job, and I had that same experience when I started as an intern. Somebody said, hey, maybe this career isn't for everybody, because our personalities didn't necessarily jive. And I said to myself, well, maybe he's right. Maybe I should just be done with this. And I said, no, I'm here. I got the opportunity. I'm going to do my best. And now I'm, part owner of the club. And, not to gloat, he's not in baseball. But it's those things that sometimes even that negative feedback can fuel you, and don't let it bring you down.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, if we don't have any other questions, Rob, hey, thank you so much for your time today. This was really a treat getting to hear about your story, the Timber Rattlers organization, kind of your keys for success. Is there any last thoughts you might have for anybody as they go out and try to conquer the world?
No, what a question. Buy a Brodzuka.
Buy a Brodzuka. We got to get a list of that vendor so we can start getting that at our chamber events, figure out who makes the Brodzuka. Yeah, no, I really appreciate this. This was fantastic, and just really appreciate you having me. Yeah. Well, thanks. We'll give a round of applause to Rob. Thank you so much.
Thanks.